We are going to discuss about the point-to-point connection. So point-to-point connection. So this is one of the kinds of connection that we called it upon in the previous section, or in the part of the one. So this is a point-to-point connection. When we say a point-to-point connection, we will discuss about the concepts, and we'll try to configure HDLC encapsulations, and we will compare between a PPP and HDLC, explain the PPP concepts and operations, and also we try to implement it. So you can see that there is whenever you have, so usually it's by default known that who is the owner of the wide area network? It is the service provider. So whenever you want to connect branch networks or remote connections, you need to have the willing and the money to use the network, because this is not a LAN which is owned by an organization. This is a WAN which is controlled by the service provider. So typically the one is owned by the service provider. So point-to-point connection, they will enable you to connect. So here you can see you have one LAN, here you have another LAN. So there are multiple options to connect between one LAN and another LAN that we have already discussed it with the concept of WAN. One of the mechanisms of connecting these two connections is called what? Point-to-point connection. So point-to-point connection can enable us to connect two different LAN segments. So LAN segments can be connected using the service provider one. So they can also be called serial connections, leased line connections, but because they are leased from the carrier or the service provider. So the companies will pay what? For the continuous connection between two remote connections. For example, here, this LAN, in this LAN, they are connected continuously by the service provider network. So I think there are different types of connection. So the first connection, we call it a serial. The serial means for whenever you want to send all these messages, you will send them one by one, bit by bit. So you can see here B3 is being sent already. So but we have another connection, parallel serial connections that are available. So parallel is an RS-232 serial ports have been replaced by the USB serial bus. But even though they are parallel, usually there are difficulties. When you look at them, it looks like they're better than faster than this one, but there are many problems with regard to with this one. The advantages of a parallel communication is simultaneous transmission over multiple wires, sending in terms of bytes rather than in bits, because multiple bits can be sent at the same time. Previously, they used to connect printers, computers. Nowadays, they are being replaced by the USB because they are. So point-to-point, in the first case, it's a permanent and it's dedicated. So nobody is going to share your network. So there is no mechanism of sharing. And the second one, they use what kind of digital transmission. So because it's a digital transmission, it doesn't require a modem in between. But we can use the device called CSU to SU. So you can see that here you have a network office, here you have a London office of the same organization, but in two different locations. You can connect them through what? A permanent dedicated. Dedicated means that nobody is going to share your network. You are the one who's going to pay from the starting point until the end point. There is no concept of sharing. So you have a pre-established path. So the path goes from what? The customer premises, so from your organization, also through the provider network, the service provider network, that's the tele, and also so it will pass. You are going to pay from the beginning till the end. So they can connect two geographically distant sites, corporate networks, and they are not limited to connections that cross the land. So they can undersea fiber optics can be used also for this communication, but they are expensive than the shared devices. When we share the shared devices, the frame relay and others are shared. If you have shared resources, so the payment can also be shared. So in that case, we can share those networks. For example, just like take a road. If you own a road so that only your traffic is going to go through that road, then indirectly you need to pay everything for this road. Starting from every payment should be made by you. Like that, we need to configure that network. So it's constantly available, and it can support voice over IP, video, everything can be supported on this one. So these are some of the available bandwidths for the serial. So when we say bandwidth, it's the rate of transfer. For example, you can say it's 56 kilobits per second can be transmitted with the 56. So you have the different carriers. The North American carrier is called T carrier. The European is called E carrier. The optical carrier is called OC. So T carriers are for the United States. These T carriers are for the United States. The E carriers are for the European, and the optical fiber is the US also. So usually they are carried, the OC or the optical carriers are usually carried on the SONET uh, carriers. The most fundamental line speed is 64 kilobits per second. So this is the first one. That's called the DSO, the DSO 0, and they are the digital signal 0 and 1. They'll keep on. So you'll have DSO 1, DSO like that. But whenever you have 24 DSOs, they are called what? DS1 or T1 line. So you can multiply 24 by 64, you'll get T1 line. Whenever you have DS28 DS1, you'll get DSC3 or T3. So you can think of DS1 is what? 24 DSOs, so you can multiply 28 times 24 to get T3. So T3 is around how much? 44.73 megabits per second. So there are protocols, encapsulation protocols. I think you do remember there are a LAN encapsulation protocol. What is the LAN encapsulation protocol? That is called switches use which kind of protocol? The Ethernet protocol. That's what we call it, Ethernet. So the Ethernet is used by what? Switch. So switch will use the Ethernet protocol. What protocol is used by the one? The one uses these two protocols. They are called the HDLC and the PPP. So whenever you have a one connection, especially in the leased line protocols, we use HDLC and the PPP. So the HDLC is the default encapsulation protocol, especially whenever you have the Cisco device. If you have the Cisco device, it's used by the what? HDLC. If you have another devices, then you need to use the point-to-point or PPP protocols. So whenever over synchronous and asynchronous circuits. So it can support PAP and CHAP. So these are the authentication mechanisms which can be used. And also there used to be SLIP previously, that is the serial line internet protocol. So here you can see that there are different types of protocols. Whenever you have the leased line, you are going to use these three. So the HDLC, the PPP, the SLIP are used by the leased line. If you have the circuit switching networks, that is what are the circuit switching networks? The ISDN, the dial-up, this all the ISDN and public switch telephone networks, PSTN. These are the telephone or the voice networks that use these protocols also, HDLC and PPP and SLEEP. And also you have the packet switching, which is usually both of them. You can see that the leased line is not a shared network, but the telephone company network, that is the public switch telephone network or the PSTN, and the SDN, which is the voice network that we use for all the telecommunications, and the frame relay, the X25, which are the packet switching networks. I think we have already discussed about the packet switching and circuit switching leased line. So previously we have said that the one is subdivided into how many portions? 3 portions. The first one is called what? The private. The second one is called, we have subdivided the private and the public. The private have been subdivided into two. That is the circuit switching and the packet switching. So here, this is the public, this is the private network, PR, private. This is the public, so the P. So what was the public? In short, internet. What are the private? The private have subdivided into what? Circuit switches. The private has been divided into, so the private has been used into what? Into a leased line. So here we have the leased line. So the circuit switching, the packet switching are what kind of networks? Shared networks. Sorry, this can be said shared networks. So the shared networks are subdivided into two, the circuit switching and packet switching. In short, these are the protocols that we use. So this one are what kind of networks? The packet switching networks. This one, and this one, they are the protocols used for what? The protocols used for both circuit switching and leased line. So don't forget these protocols. So the one encapsulation, so I think HDLC, if it is HDLC, the Cisco standard, it will have protocols inside. HDLC is a synchronous protocol which has been developed by the ISO. You do know that all of them are layer 3 protocols. They are not layer 3 protocols. They are layer 2 protocols for one purpose. So HDLC is, we say that it's a default serial encapsulation, and also it's a point-to-point protocol. The HDLC is a point-to-point protocol. How do we configure that? You'll configure interface. By default, we have said encapsulation is the HDLC, but if you have a Cisco device, it's by default. So if you have non-Cisco devices, connecting non-Cisco devices, you need to use PPP. So you write the encapsulation of HDLC command. So you can see that show interface serial. You can see that the encapsulation is these kinds of encapsulation. So by default, if you have a Cisco, so whenever you have the serial 000 up, the line protocol up, indicate that the line is functioning properly. And also so there are different troubleshooting mechanisms. Some of them have just this one. When you see this command, there are different means that you can identify problems related with the serial line. So whenever you have up, protocol is up, serial is up, the link is up, so you are not required to do anything. So if you have serial X is down and protocol is down, now both of them are not working. So in this case, multiple issues can be seen, but sometimes the serial can be up and the protocol can be down. So there are different mechanisms that you can use. So we said that PPP. So we are more interested in PPP because HDLC is a Cisco proprietary protocol. We don't need a proprietary protocol. We do need what kind of protocol? A protocol that can be used for all. So encapsulations should be used whenever there is what? PPP you will use whenever you have a connection with non-Cisco router. So we have said that it is layer 2 encapsulation protocol. So whenever you have serial cables, phone lines, trunk lines, cellular telephones, specialized radio links, fiber optics, all of them will use which kind of protocol? This is the PPP protocol. So an additional advantage of this one is it supports two protocols, LCP and NCP. So LCP used for what? Link connection. So link connections can be established, configured, and tested using the LCP, the the lower protocol, and also we have the network control protocol that's called NCP for establishing and configuring different network layer protocols. So they are a little bit upper. So what's PPP? So we said that. So first, PPP. First, the advantage of PPP are one of the advantages, link quality management. So it can change the quality of the link. It doesn't just authentication process will start only whenever. So there is authentication process one advantage, link quality management another advantage. So it can monitor the quality of the link and it can configure with this command. So the quality can be configured using the percentage. So based on this quality, if your quality does not reach to the recommended stage, that packet can be rerouted or dropped. So if you say 50% quality, so if the packet does not reach this 50% quality, the packet will be dropped. So this is a minimum requirement. We have said that it can support PAP and CHAP authentication. So that's one of the advantages of what? The PPP. So we said they have two protocols. What protocols? The network layer protocol that's used for upper layer, network layer. It can communicate with the IP and with protocols, and this one will communicate with the physical layer. So that's an advantage of this layer. So there are so many advantages with regard to this one. So it will have because it's a frame. Frames have this kind of structure. Most of the frames, either Ethernet frame or this frame, we can see that they have a flag at the beginning and at the end. They have frame check sequencing mechanisms. So this can be used for this one. So the steps that are used for PPP session establishment. First one is link establishment and configuration negotiation. So first they need to establish a link and they negotiate based on. Then they'll check what? The link quality determination. Even though this is optional, they will determine the quality option. So then they'll configure, negotiate on the network layer protocols. So finally, we'll have the link termination after transmission and so on. But one of the configuration is what? Authentication. So we can authenticate. Authentication can be established. Why do we need authentication? So that sending and receiving of sorry, unless in otherwise they have authenticated, they cannot send and receive. So this is one of the mechanisms. Then you need to have compression. Why do we need to have a compression? So that you can send the file with the minimum size. So it can PPP can support what? File compression. And it can support what? Multi-link. You can combine more than one channels to work as one. So this is, we call it multi-link. So combining two more channels and compression and authentication can be supported by whom? By PPP. So PPP will have all these advantage. So we have said what? It can compress, it can error detect, it can call back. So all these are the advantages of PPP. Now let us go and see a little bit of so all this can be, we have said, combined. can bring two routers here. We can connect them through the serial cables because we don't have. We'll see the physical one and we'll zoom it in. So let us turn it off. Let us add this one. Let us turn it on. And the same here. Let us turn it off. And let us turn it on. So you can connect them through the serial 00 with the serial 00. The name is what? Router 1. So if you see here, exit, show IP interface SE0/0/0. So you can see here so this is the, so when you go up you can see that the encapsulation is HDLC. So if this is HDLC, because we are using the Cisco device by default, and when you check it on here you can also check that. We'll say no enable conf t host name art. So exit, show interfaces SE0/0/0. So here also you can see that the encapsulation is what? HDLC. We can change this one, conf t interface serial 0/0/0. We can change this one here, encapsulation, it can be PPP. Now, even if everything works perfectly, let us say that IP address is 10.1.1.2 255 0. Let us say no shut, and let us configure also here. I think what was the IP that we gave it here? The IP is 10.2. Yeah. Try here. Conf t interface SE 0/0/0. Let us provide clock rate 128. IP address. It was 192.168. Sorry, it was 10.1.1.1. So it must 255 0. No shut. Now you can see the network is normal, but we cannot ping. Why? Because one of the this part is using what? Is using PPP. This one is using HDLS. So you need to have the same protocol, which should be configured. So you cannot ping from this router. For example, if you ping 10.1.1.1 So let us say show IP, so show interface SE 0/0/0. Now you can see here what? Here you can see the serial, the link is working, the cable is working, but the protocol is not working. Why? Because the problem here, you have what kind of protocol? HDLC. But here, if you come here and again do the same thing that I have done now, show interfaces SE 0/0/0. So here you can see this is PPP. So what the problem? That one is using HDLC. This router is using HDLC. This router is using PPP. But the configuration is working. But we cannot ping one another. So you cannot ping that router. So but 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. So if you ping it, there is no reply. Well, the problem is what? Only the protocol. So we need to configure this one. We'll come here. We'll change the protocol. So we'll say what? Configure terminal interface SE 0/0/0. Now we'll say what? Encapsulation. Encapsulation is what? PPP. Both of them now are what? PPP. Now, if you exit from here, if you say show IP interfaces SE 0/0/0, now you can see with that what? You can see the line, the serial, the cable is working and the protocol is also working. But now if you ping it, if you ping 10.1.1.2, the other router, now you'll see a response, which is perfect.